Welcome to episode number 4 of the Career Breakthrough Series. I'm your host, Paul Ames, and on the show today, guys, we've got a super special guest, Matt Manero. Matt is a Fortune 500 of 5,000 CEO with 4 incredible businesses doing over $100 million in revenue a year. Matt is a super down-to-earth guy with some amazing gold and life experiences, and he shares some absolute wealth of knowledge in this podcast. Guys, stay tuned. You wouldn't want to miss this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the inside.
Welcome to episode number 4 of the Career Breakthrough Series. I'm your host, Paul Ames, and today on the show we've got an incredible guest, Matt Manero. Matt is the CEO of he's a Fortune 500 of 5,000 CEO with 4 incredible businesses called Commercial Fleet Financing, and he's also the host of an amazing show called Road Grit TV and the author of The Grit. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you'd just like to give the audience a bit of a background on what you've done, where you've come from, and just a bit of your history or influences on yourself from a young age growing up.
Well, our company's out of Dallas, Texas. We finance transportation equipment, big rigs, bulldozers, tow trucks, very blue-collar type industry. I'm a blue-collar kind of guy, and our team, our culture is very blue-collar, gritty, sort of street-smart group of folks. I started the company 21 years ago from zero, a one-bedroom apartment, phone, folding table, and since then we've done over $1 billion. So this year we'll do probably $140 million bucks, and it's been quite a ride. You know, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of ups and downs, and you know, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but on the other hand, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I can imagine what an incredible journey and a real roller coaster ride I'm sure it would have been. So, yeah, thank you again for coming on the show, and I appreciate that. So, Matt, just wanted to get a bit of an understanding of your upbringing, basically what life was like for you growing up. Did you have a lot of entrepreneurial influences, or did your family come from an entrepreneurial background?
No, not really. My real dad left when I was 6 months old, left my mother and I high and dry. I never saw him again. I never met him. I knew nothing about him. Still to this day, know nothing about him. And then my mother remarried, and that gentleman adopted me when I was 9 or 10, and became the father figure in my life. I have a nice relationship with him, but it was always different for me, Paul, right? I mean, you just know it's different. And so I was always a kid pushing a lawnmower and shoveling the snow and all that sort of stuff. And to be frank, I always knew I was going to be okay. I just had no idea where it was going to come from. Nobody was giving me a roadmap. Your audience, I'm sure people can relate to that. I mean, I just remember my whole adolescence just wanting someone to just show me the way. Somebody help me, show me some direction. So from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it was, you know, I very early on knew the connection of work and money, but nobody was really giving me a roadmap. There was nothing for me to follow.
Oh, perfect. And yeah, I can completely relate as well. It was exactly the same for me. I've shared before about why I started my business was the same thing in high school, never got that guidance or direction. So yeah, I can completely relate. I went through, you know, all the negative emotions, like I'm sure you did with the confusion and frustration you go through. So yeah, I think that's a powerful thing, being able to work through that yourself. It's pretty incredible to come out the other side with some clarity.
Yeah, it is. No question about it. But I mean, I think it's such a shame too that so many people who had the opportunity to help kids like us who, you know, probably have a little bit of light, we have a little potential, and that so many people just didn't latch on or recognize it, whether it was coaches or teachers or parents or coworkers or bosses. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I mean, I was screaming for it. Just somebody, just take me under your wing and just show me something that I should do. I'll do it. Just show me.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly, man. I can completely relate. So, Matt, just wanted to get a bit of an understanding of like some of the previous careers you've done before you started your own business or businesses now. What are some of the previous things that you've done in your life, or what have you currently previously worked as?
Yeah, I mean, I went to school to be a chef. So I went to a school here in Providence, Rhode Island called Johnson & Wales University to be a chef. It was the only school I got into, so that's where I went. Another example of no one telling me what to do, right? So that's where I went. You know, I started a T-shirt company that quickly went out of business. I started, as everybody, the pushing the lawnmower businesses, all that stuff. Along the way, as commercial fleet, I've started a number of smaller businesses, 3 that are still in existence and a number that have failed and gone by the wayside. I was trained to sell by Hilton Hotels, so I was in the hotel business for a little while.
Okay,
and then
wow.
I quit that job just on a whim. I just quit it, and I rode my bicycle from the base of the Golden Gate Bridge all the way down the Pacific Coast Highway. I had nothing, no sleeping bag, no tent, nothing. I just slept. That was 800 miles. I rode it all the way to Mexico.
Wow. What a journey.
It was so much fun, and that helped me sort of find myself in my early 20s, and really sort of give me a little bit of clarity of who I was, and a little bit of a rebuilding of my self-esteem, which, was very challenged when I was younger. My adopted dad, while I love him and he did the best he could, he was very hard on my sister and I, and did not nurture our self-esteem like he should have. We were called stupid and dumb and idiots. My whole sort of upbringing, that's all I really remember hearing from him.
Wow. And you should be so proud of yourself, Matt, for what you've come through and the person you are today to be able to come through that. What do you think are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from these previous careers that you've done? What are some of the biggest takeaways that you've implemented in your life, or how have they affected and changed your life?
Look, I think the biggest thing that occurred to me was obviously taking full responsibility for what I can achieve. The reality, though, Paul, is that for most of my career as a business owner, I wasn't going anywhere. I mean, I was ahead of my neighbors and my friends and my old man. I was ahead of them, but I was never satisfied. I'm really not that satisfied today, to tell you the truth, but I just always knew that there was something more. My wife, we've been married 18 years. I would come home and she would say, "You're so much bigger than your business." She would say, "One day you're going to realize it, Matt." And the reality is, it took me 18 years to build my business to $36 million a year, and it took me 18 months when I got really serious about it to get to $100 million. And the only thing you can take from that is, why did I wait so long?
Yeah,
a decade. Why did I just not do it sooner?
Yep. Definitely. I think that's powerful advice too. It's the common thing you always hear from, I remember reading something about saying the best thing everyone can do is go to a retirement home and speak to the people there who are elderly and potentially some of them on their deathbed. And what's the biggest thing they have is the regret that they haven't done things in life. Don't regret anything in life. Do it when you can. Don't wait. There's no perfect opportunity. So thanks for sharing that. That's brilliant advice.
You're welcome. Tony Robbins calls it the rocking chair test. Right?
Yeah,
when you're in the rocking chair at the end, what do you want to remember?
Yep, exactly right. And it's an amazing thing. Have no regrets. So Matt, what would you say from your career or your business in general? What would be some of the biggest mental roadblocks or obstacles you've had to work through? Or first of all, what do you think the biggest obstacles are? And also, how have you worked through these biggest obstacles in your career and your business?
For me, without question, the biggest obstacle for me was not dreaming big enough. Was staying too small, was protecting the nuts that I had accumulated, right? And then the second piece, which dovetails to that, is I didn't understand who I was competing against, Paul. I thought I was competing against other people. I just didn't realize that I was competing against myself. And when I realized that, that's when things really begin to change for me. And again, my story is I'm 21 years in business, my friend. So, it's only been the last 4 or 5 years in which that really kicked in for me, and I was able to get what I thought my piece of the pie was. And so I would challenge everyone to not compete against others, not compete against your coworkers or your family members or your neighbors or any of that stuff. Compete only against what are you capable of achieving. And that to me delivered tremendous clarity, because I began to tap into, well, why am I always frustrated? I call it a constant state of pissed offness, and I began to understand it. It's because I knew I had much more potential that I wasn't tapping into.
Yep, definitely. And I think that's the biggest thing that, I talk a lot about fixed and growth mindset with a lot of my clients. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they have unlimited potential. We don't actually even know our potential until we push ourselves and try to see what we can actually do. For so long, like I've been the same as you, where, being told that all your life from your family in high school, and it kind of, puts that dampener on you, makes you believe that stuff until you realize, you go, this is just bullshit. It's not real. I'm capable of anything. I'm capable of achieving what anyone else started, or doing my own thing, So, yeah, I think that's powerful.
Thank you. It goes back to my original comments, though, of why is it that people who shouldn't be doing that to us as youth do it, right? We have this amazing gift to change a person's mindset, and so many people just don't. They use it the wrong way, and it takes time, man. The brain records it all, buddy.
Oh,
and so
yeah,
you got to re-record the tapes. You got to re-record the tapes.
Yep, definitely. So this is a bit of a random question, but I like to ask a lot of my guests. So what do you feel is the core of a happy, fulfilled life for you?
Look, I'm blessed with an amazing wife. I have 3 incredible kids, 14, 12, and 10. They give me a tremendous amount of happiness. But the reality is that my business is my 4th child, and my 3 kids understand that. I mean, look, it's 7 o'clock my time, and I'm not home. What am I doing? I'm working, and this is work. This is an opportunity. This is us meeting each other and seeing where it goes.
Definitely.
Just like I would do for one of them. But Paul, just like I would do for one of them, right? If they need something, I'm there for them. So for me, happiness is making sure that everybody's healthy around me, that they're happy. My marriage is strong, which I'm lucky that it is. But listen, I need money, man. I mean, money is really important to me. And I think most business owners and even individuals, whether you're working for yourself or somebody else, don't really connect to money at a level that they should.
Definitely.
We need more money. Everybody needs more money. So for me, I'm not looking for happiness. I'm looking for more money. I'm looking for better health. I'm looking for stability. I mean, hell, when I bring home a big fat check, life gets better at home, Paul.
Definitely does.
It plays out.
Yeah.
So I don't like to tell my kids no, and I'm fortunate that I don't anymore. But that's not a place I want to live. I do not want to live in scarcity. I want to live in abundance, and it takes money to do that.
Exactly right. And I think exactly what you just said. Yeah, so many business owners don't realize, cash flow is king. And they, even I had to go through a lot to start with my business. I've just been in business for 2.5 years, I think it is now. And to start with, I was undervaluing myself, and, you just don't, you think you're not capable of achieving things. You go, what if I fail? What if I don't deliver results for my clients? And you kind of just have to go, well, I'm delivering results. Look at all the testimonials or, things that you've achieved in your business. So, yeah, just having that reflection time is just great. So that's brilliant, Matt. Thank you for that. So just want to discuss with your current businesses, I'd love to get a bit of an understanding of, I know you were saying to me before, you've got 4 businesses, and obviously you've got your amazing book, which I'm going to get, which is just coming up. So guys, at the end of the show notes, I'm going to link to Matt's ebook. For you guys to download. I definitely jump on board because Matt is awesome with amazing advice. But yeah, I just wanted to get an understanding of your businesses and how you bridged out into each one of them. I know you started with commercial fleet financing, and now you've obviously bridged out. So yeah, just like to get an understanding of those.
Yeah, so again, we finance big rigs, bulldozers, tow trucks, again, blue-collar transportation industry. And our competitors are large publicly traded banks. So I always knew that there was money in what I refer to as my platform. So I think that's a very important part as people are trying to figure out what career they need to go into. You need to go into a career that there's money,
Definitely.
Right? I mean, you need a place that there's some players in there. And I knew that the large publicly traded companies were making bank.
Oh, yeah.
So how could I go get my share? I mean, that was the genesis of it, right? I mean, if Wells Fargo is and Bank of America are in this space, well, heck, I should be in this space because I know the banks are making money. Definitely. And so we've made integrated businesses all within the transportation space. So it starts with our finance business, and then it moves to our dealer business and our auction business. The reason for that is if people aren't buying as much equipment, therefore we're not financing as much, then maybe they're selling that equipment and then as our dealer and our auction business. And so it sort of fluctuates through the highs and lows of economic ups and downs. And that has proven to be a very prudent model for us. The other thing is we are only in 4 spaces. We call them silos in here. They are trucking, towing, construction, and moving. That's it. So I believe that there are riches and niches, and we are, in my opinion, and I think the math tells us that we're probably the largest independent finance company in the States in transportation. But that's just because we're experts. So if you came to me and needed, financing for furniture for your hotel or ovens for your restaurant, I can't help you. I don't know anything about it. But if you need a new bulldozer, I'm your guy.
Perfect. That's brilliant. And I really love how you've said that. You've got all those four bases covered. And I think that's the key point, obviously, to, successful business by the sounds of it, like that amazing model you've got. So you thought, started off doing this, you went, okay, so where can I go to from here? And then you've got, like you said, you've got the auctioning and, sales part and everything like that. So you've got the whole area covered. So I think that's amazing, Matt, because, as you said, when the markets go down, you've got yourself covered with other sources of income coming in from other businesses. So that's incredible.
So, Paul, business is a very simple economic model, right? It's either a buying or a selling model. That's it. I mean, there's either a supply or there's a demand. And so the thought process is, when there is a supply of equipment, because the demand for financing is down, we need to be in that business. And then when that flips, we need to be in that business. And so it's worked out well. And I would challenge everybody to think of their business that same way, which is, and by the way, that came to me early on in my career when I did finance in Phoenix, Arizona. I financed coffee machines for a convenience store. And I said, I don't understand. It's 105 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona. Why are you putting coffee machines? It's because it's not 105 all year round, he said. Cool months.
Yep.
I mean, look, by the way, I should have learned that economic lesson in school, right? Somebody should have taught me. I mean, I had to be in business for myself to learn that simple economic lesson. But the key is I took it and I put it into practice. And I think so many people, Paul, with social media and all this stuff, everyone's following everybody and liking the guy in front of the Bugatti and the Ferrari, which neither of those are his or hers, right?
Yep.
The key is, how do you take it and put it into play in your own life? That's what matters. Yeah. It's not about the feel good of a cool quote or a cool picture. It's how do you take that information and put it into play?
That's gold. That's brilliant. And yeah, it's very true. Like, I think I've learned the hard way from, going through some business coaching and stuff like that, and some different things where, a lot of it's hyped up. And I find that a lot of especially on social media, a lot of it's so hyped up nowadays. And yeah, there's a lot of sharks out there. So yeah, taking what you need from it and implementation is so important. So that's very, very true. So. Matt, I know, obviously, I'm not sure how many people you manage in all of these businesses, but obviously leadership and, team building and, being able to understand people and emotional intelligence. I've been talking about that a lot recently. I believe that's probably one of the core things that you could utilize in the workplace. So how do you find you effectively lead and inspire your teams or your employees?
I used to do it with a whip. I mean, I used to beat this place to death, right? Because I was coming at it from such a place of desperation. How do we get to the next level? How do we get to the next level? And then about a year and a half ago, once we hit that $100 million mark, I realized that the 100 million, what I did to get to 100 million is not going to get us to 200 or 300 million. And so we've really taken a real transparency approach where we share everything. And now we've taken it to the internet with our morning scrum show that we broadcast every morning, the inner workings of our business, the highs and lows. Anybody can see it and watch it on RoadGrid TV. So I'm a big believer in transparency. The problem is, I'm not always the nicest guy with the bad news. So if you're not making your calls in my office or you're not hitting your number, well, I'm going to call you out on it because we believe in transparency. I'm just trying to do it a little gentler than I used to do it. And now I've hired we have a whole executive management team now in place. So I'm a little bit removed from that hammer role that I was for all those years. And that's a good thing, by the way, right? I really did reach my level of incompetence when it comes from a management standpoint. But look, somebody's got to drive the ship. And I think most business owners don't really understand that either, that your vision has to be greater than the vision of the people that work for you. You have to see it differently than they do. That's the key. That's why you're the boss. That's your job as the leader.
Exactly.
And you need to bring people around that want to follow that vision. So the idea of like-mindedness, clarity in your company culture. I mean, those things are so important. I talk about it a lot in my book, but I say no company culture, no business.
Exactly right. And yeah, it's funny. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and yeah, the biggest one I've been listening to is, you know, a lot of people are talking about company culture and, you know, how important it is to long-term employee longevity. You know, to keep your employees there for the long term, to keep them happy, to you know, create an environment where they want to work and they want to thrive for you, and you know, contribute to the like-minded values of your organisation. So yeah, thanks for that. No, that's such an important thing. Having those values in place. And
but so, Paul, I'll take it one step further for you, real quick.
That'd be brilliant.
Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, said a few years back that LinkedIn will only give a 6-month or a 12-month employment contract to their employees. Are you familiar with that?
No, I didn't know that, no.
So LinkedIn will only give a 6-month or 12-month. Here's what he said. He says that the employee cannot commit at 110% for longer than 6 to 12 months, and the employer can't really make that commitment either. So they go 6 to 12-month employment contracts where they expect 100% from both sides, and then they just see where it goes. I believe a lot in that. The idea that someone, regardless of how perfect your organization is, the idea that they're going to be with you forever is silly business. It isn't. So you need to have a great time and make it work while you're together, because you don't know. People get sick. The spouse gets a big raise. They don't feel like working anymore. I mean, you just need to enjoy the ride and do the best you can, but you cannot allow people to float. Nobody floats in my office, man. I grind it hard because I want greatness for everybody. I want greatness. And I have a few very personal stories that make that connection happen, but I want people to reach their level of success, and I want them to do it so much faster than I did it.
Perfect. And yeah, listening to your show and watching all your stuff you post up, I'd have to say it'd be very inspiring and motivating to push it hard if you're in your business, because, you know, I think you've got the amazing leadership qualities. Obviously, from over the years you've learned and refined that. So yeah, I think that's such a key thing. You know, I find a lot of places in, you know, previous jobs and stuff I've worked in, you know, a lot of people are just bosses. You know, they're not leaders. They don't, you know, motivate and inspire you. They just grind you and drive you to the ground. Whereas, you know, people are the enjoyment factor is just going to decrease from that. And you're going to go, nah, screw it, I'm going to find another job. So, yeah, as I said, I've loved the stuff you post out. And, yeah, it's very inspiring and motivating. So, yeah, that's great, Matt.
Thank you, man.
So, Matt, as I said, obviously my podcast is tailored for people, you know, professionals in the career. So, what do you think would be 3 to 5 actionable tips that my audience could take away, whether that be, you know, developing as a manager, whether that, say, if they're just an employee wanting to move up to a managerial position or upper management, or potentially find a mentor in their career? What do you think would be 3 to 5 actionable tips that they could take away and implement? Obviously, because implementation is so crucial. What do you think would be the biggest things that you could share from your knowledge and experience?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that any employee needs to do, because the employer already knows this, is you have to connect yourself to the rev stream. And so regardless of the position, I mean, my IT manager and I talk about it all the time. I mean, I explain to him, if your expense becomes greater than the value / revenue that you bring to my organization, you got a problem, pal. Yeah. Right? So connect yourself to the rev stream, regardless of what it is. Understand that there's a number to your head, and try to make sure that you justify that number. The second thing I would say to people, Paul, is, and this may be controversial, but they need to be selfish.
Yep.
So I say to my team, if you make the money that you need to make, the company will make the money that we need to make. But you need to make what you need to make first.
That's right.
So people need to get selfish about it, and they need to recognize that the company and platform must help them get ahead financially. And I'm not talking 3-5% raises. I think that's such hocus pocus. How can you get rich on 3 and 5% increases? You can't.
Exactly.
You need big moves. Yeah. And so connecting to the revenue helps with that. I think the third thing that I would do, and this is probably a little cliche, but man, don't burn bridges. You don't know. I just had a guy resign. I liked him so much, and he resigned on a Sunday night through an email, did not give us 2 weeks notice. And I will never help him ever.
No.
But if he didn't do that, I would have run through fire for him.
Wow.
Right? But to do that to us, which leaves our operations people in a little bit of a pinch until we backfill that position, he burned his bridge. Man, you don't want to burn a bridge with a guy like me, man. I like talking to people. I'm not going to badmouth you, but I could have helped him.
Exactly.
Right? Now he's dead to us. So don't burn the bridge, man. It's not worth it. You're not getting ahead. Like, if you want to leave the company, I highly suggest you go to the owner and say, look, I'm not happy. I'm thinking about leaving.
Yep.
Most of them, if they're good, will try to help you in that transition. I know I will. Yeah,
definitely. And I think one of the biggest things that I love that you said was to find opportunities in everything you look into. And I think I read that yesterday, and I just went, it's so true. You've got to look for those opportunities in everything you do. You know, even in the bad, like the things that go bad or your failures, you know, learn from them. Like, I know that's kind of cliche as well, but find the opportunity or the lesson in this. Say, you know, why has this happened? Why has it gone wrong for me? And how can I learn from this? So, yeah, as you said, that guy has just, you know, screwed himself. I don't understand why people would do that, especially via email. That's probably the worst thing you can do. So, and leave you high and dry.
What's funny is the email said, I loved it there so much. You guys really motivated me to go on and do bigger and better things. So that's what I'm going to go do, and blah, 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 blah. So on one hand, it was like, you know, we helped him. On the other hand, he still hosed us, which, by the way, at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in being selfish like that. And so if the company isn't giving you what you need to take what you can and leave. That's how it goes. And when I say take, I'm not talking about taking clients and stuff. I'm not talking about doing anything illegal. I'm just saying take all the skills, all the value, all the knowledge that you put in there and leave and go do it someplace else. I have a new book coming out all next year called I Need More Money. And there's a story in the book of a friend of mine who we went to college together, and she worked in the fashion business in New York and would come through Dallas on these trunk shows selling clothes. And every time she would come through Dallas, she was with a different company. And I would say, I don't get it. Why all the job hopping? And she's like, they keep paying me more money, so I leave. And now she's the executive vice president of a big fashion line in New York City and making tons and tons of cash because she had the guts to leave. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep, that's right. And I think, you know, obviously things have shifted a lot over the years with the way people look at employment. And I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously, what you said before really hits home, and I've noticed a lot with the clients I've worked with, or even myself in my career journey. You know, you've got to be selfish in the way that, you know, look after yourself first. And, you know, if the job's not working for you, move and find something bigger. But, you know, if that place is looking after you and, you know, doing really well for you, then, and they're giving you good pay and good opportunities, then keep seizing opportunities in there. So, no, that's great advice. So, Matt, I just wanted to ask from now, so what is the best career advice you think you've ever received in your life? Now, this can be, you know, whether you've heard it on YouTube or, you know, you could be somebody who's told you this or, you know, anything like that. What do you think is the best career advice you've ever received?
So, Paul, I wish I could give you that answer, but I have to tell you, I literally don't remember getting a lot of good career advice. I do remember, you know, reading and listening to thousands and thousands of tapes and books about personal self-help, self-esteem development, all that sort of stuff. But I can't tell you some of the worst advice I gotten, which came to me from very trusted advisors, people I cared about, and I listened to them in the early days, and they were wrong. Stay small. Don't trust anybody. If you're in business for yourself, everybody wants to screw you. Squeeze as much money out of the company as you possibly can. Only one hand works the register. I heard that a bunch, right? Nice. One hand works the register. I got to sign every check. I got to print every check. It's absurd. How can you build a company like that? You know, it's crazy. Definitely. You can build a small company like that, but you can't build a scalable business when you're the only, nobody can write a check here. The business can't function unless I'm here. It's absurd.
Definitely.
So, but I believed it for a long time, and it hurt me, particularly the don't trust anybody mindset. Man, you cannot get big without partnerships and trusted people around you, period, end of story. You cannot scale a business or a career without a big, fat network of people that care about you and you care about them, which means you got to trade info back and forth. You got to do favors for people, you know?
Exactly. Now that's brilliant advice. And yeah, obviously, yeah, networking is the biggest thing. That's probably my biggest strength, obviously reaching out to people and I had to overcome my own issues where, I think, that person won't talk to me. And I thought, what have we got to lose? They say yes or they say no. Or this happens or this doesn't happen. So, and I've learned that that's been the best thing that's actually helped me in my business and my career and life. So, thank you for that, Matt. Yep.
I mean, most of the time they say yes. I mean, I remember, you know who Larry Winget is? You know who the author Larry Winget is?
No, I haven't heard of them, no.
He's written a bunch of books. And I remember seeing him at a show. He was the keynote speaker, and I was doing some breakout room speaking. And I remember going up to him and said, Larry, what would I have to do to get you on my show? And he just stopped, and he looked at me. He said, I said, Larry, would you be on my show? He goes, of course, just call my office. I mean, it was like that. I spent hours thinking what I had to say, and it just went down like that. Just ask, guys. Yep. Just ask.
Exactly, and I put this practice into place with getting you on the show as well, which was great. I think we connected. I think we've got a mutual friend, Cherie Ame. Yeah. So I've done a podcast and another show, and I connected with Cherie, obviously got connected to you from there, and just thought, you know what, I'd love to have Matt on my show. That'd be brilliant. I'm sure he's got absolute wealth of knowledge. So send you a message and scheduled it in, and here we are. So.
That's how it goes. I mean, we make it so much more complicated than it is, Paul.
Exactly right. So this is another random question I've got, which obviously coming from my counselling background, there's a tool we use in solution-focused therapy called the miracle question. So imagine if you went to sleep tonight, Matt, and a miracle occurred overnight. And when you woke up, you could create a massive impact on the world. There was no mental roadblocks or no financial issues or anything stopping you. You could, impact and change anything you really wanted in the world. What would that be, and why would that be so important to you to change?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I can tell you I've never asked myself that question. Maybe I still don't think big enough on that topic, but without question, for me, it would be I would cure cancer. We've been challenged with a few in my family. We recently lost my brother-in-law. He was my wife's brother. He was 46 years old. Paul, he died with 4 kids, no health insurance, no life insurance, and $100 in the bank. And he is the reason I'm writing the I Need More Money book, because for twofold. Number one, it's a wake-up call to so many people. By the way, I loved him, and my wife loved him, so much too. But, his kids all had iPads. They all dressed nicely. They went out to dinner a lot. So there needs to be a big wake-up call on that. But the second piece is that my wife and I were able to step up and handle all of the financial needs that they had during that 1 year period of time where we all hoped he got better, but he didn't. And that's an incredibly powerful place to be. And once you do it once, you say to yourself, how many more people can I do this for? And you just, everything for me became extremely clear on the money front, which is, you don't have enough. You don't have enough money. If you die, you want to take money out of the equation for generations of your family. It's not just, and by the way, my brother-in-law, to his lack of discipline, for $100 a month, he could have had a $100,000 life insurance policy, but he didn't. I mean, I'm telling you, that $100,000 would have changed the entire outlook. And by the way, it would have taken a little bit of guilt away from him too, because I know he died feeling, how did I work so hard and leave them with nothing? Man, that's just that type of self-actualization and looking in at saying, what are we doing and why are we doing it? Man, it's powerful.
Definitely. I'm sorry to hear that, Matt, but that's a big lesson in there for everybody to take away from. Obviously, do what you can and prepare yourself, get everything ready and help out your future generations. Or think bigger than yourself. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned to do is think bigger than just me. I want to make an impact in the world. I want to, make a massive difference to my family. So, thanks for sharing that, Matt. And I'm sorry to hear of your loss.
You're welcome. Thank you for saying that. I mean, the takeaways are twofold, right? The first thing is be diligent. Do a few things. They don't have to be. I think the reason most people don't start is, it's $100,000. Well, listen, when it's zero, $100,000 means a lot.
Exactly.
So So be diligent in that. And then the other piece is stack and rack. I mean, get rich.
Yep.
Do something that gets your butt rich. I mean, leave your family with not just hundreds of thousands. Could you leave them with tens of millions of dollars because you busted your ass and you made something meaningful? I mean, that's what drives me now, man. I mean, I'm in that mode of how do we get tens and tens of millions of dollars built up, so that's what they get if something happens to me. And it gets me up just like a rocket ship every day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, it's a big driver. Obviously, I've got a nearly 3-year-old girl and a 9-month-old little boy, so that's pushing it hard. So yeah, I think that's great advice, Matt. So Matt, obviously we touched on this a bit before, and you did say that, you know, you didn't feel that this was obviously your why, like your biggest thing, why you did what you do in life. What do you feel would be the biggest why, if you weren't doing all of this for your business, like had all your businesses going, what do you think would be the biggest thing you'd ideally love to do in life? If you weren't doing these businesses?
I tell you, what we're doing right now is truly my passion. And I knew very early on when I was a teenager, I had a football coach. Not that he took me under his wing, but you know, he was yelling at us one day, and I just remember saying, "This is what I want to do. I'd like to be a coach." And then I realized there was no money in it, and so I went into business. But now I'm reverting back, and I'm actually combining the two. So to answer your question, this is what I love to do. I love to write. I love to help people. I love to share my story. And this is truly what we're doing here. Is what I was supposed to do. I just happened to use an equipment finance platform to help me get here, but this is where I'm going for the future. That's why I put the executive management team in place to get the business to the next levels, and this is what I get to do now, and this is what I love to do.
That's perfect. And I think that's what the amazing opportunity business can provide you with. Once you leverage and automate your business, you can then focus on doing more and impacting the world more, or doing more what lights you up inside. So I think that's brilliant that, yeah, you're able to, you know, refocus on what you really love doing and head down that direction. So that's great, Matt.
But Paul, it wasn't possible if I didn't spend a tremendous amount of time doing something that created a platform and some leverage for me to be able to do that. And I think a lot of people think it happens quick, and I think a lot of people think it happens easy. And I know it's, you know, they hear it, but I'm telling you, if you want to go to the next level, it's just a matter of how much pain are you willing to endure? How uncomfortable are you willing to get? It is the only differentiating factor of those who have what most people want and those who don't. It's how much pain and uncomfortable are you willing to put up with? It just isn't this smooth, wonderful float. It's up and down. It's tough. It's stressful. It's strenuous. You will sacrifice. You will win. You will lose. But I can tell you, for me, like I said in the beginning, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't have had it any other way either.
That's brilliant. And yeah, it absolutely hits home with me because, and I think that's why I talk about like why your why is so important, because, you know, I've had clients in the past where they said, "Oh, I want to become a lawyer." And when you discover why do you want to do that, and they say, "Oh, you know, I just want it for prestige or money." And I was like, "That's great. You know, it's great that you've got that. I mean, everybody needs money. Money is very important." But I say you need to have another reason backing you. So when things get really tough, money will only get you so far as a driver. I think you got to have something else just there driving you. For me, like, money is really, really important to me, but also like providing that life for my family, or having that some other reason that's lighting you up inside to keep pushing you there. I think having those side by side just, it makes you move forward in an amazing manner.
It's powerful if you can put the two together, but if you can't, like I didn't for a long time, you still need to grind it.
Yep, definitely. Yeah,
still got to show up every day, should shower and shave and get to the office.
Exactly, yeah. And like old Grant Cardone's lines are hustle hard. So yeah, I strongly believe in hustling. So
yeah, it's key. It's key.
So Matt, what would you say would be one of your biggest positive traits or attributes that you use to help you achieve the success you have in life? And also, what do you think would be one of your most negative, or the one that kind of hinders you or stops you moving forward?
I don't know what your other guesses say, but it's probably usually the same, right? So for me, I come at my life, and I certainly come at my business from a place of desperation. I mean, I am still trying to prove other people wrong, I know it's a little detrimental. I'm really trying to prove myself right, that I'm capable of doing this. I mean, look, Paul, I drive to my office every day, and I think it's an important lesson for most people to do. When you drive to the office or when you go somewhere, you need to look at big, tall skyscrapers or buildings with other people's name on it, right? And you need to say, how did they get there, right? In my business, I do a show called Titans of Transportation, where I interview the most successful people in the transportation world. And my finishing question for them is, why is it that so many people start with one truck and some get to 10,000 trucks and some start with one truck and finish with one truck? What is the difference? How does it happen? What is the quadrant? What makes that happen? And so for me, it's desperation to be more, to do something more meaningful than I've already done. At the same time, that desperation has caused me many hours at the office. It's hurt me physically, to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm training for a marathon right now just to get myself back into shape, but I got way out of shape for a while in my early 40s just because of the work and the strain and the desire for more. So, that balance idea is a challenge for me. I don't really have it. I just got back from a week in Belize, and after a couple days, I didn't tell my wife and kids this, but after a couple days, I was like, "Can we go now?" I mean, I'm done. I don't live my life for vacations, Paul, and for people who need a vacation to get away from your real life. I mean, I think Vaynerchuk says it best. I think he says, "Your shit's screwed up." I don't need that, man. I love what I do, and if I didn't love what I do, I would change it. And that's a good takeaway for your audience too. If you don't like what you're doing, change it.
Exactly. That's very, very true. Life's too short, as you said. Proven from you said your brother-in-law. I mean, life's just too short. You don't know what could happen tomorrow, today, the next day. So make every moment count and do what you love and find what you love. So. That's brilliant, Matt. Thank you for that. That's it's quite similar. Obviously, a few of the guests have similar sort of things, but it's usually one amazingly positive trait, and then one that kind of holds you back a little bit. So that's brilliant, Matt. So just moving on to, we're just about to wrap up soon, Matt. So obviously, you've got your own book, which I'm going to promote out to our audience because that's incredible. But what's another book or a resource or video that you've seen that's really helped influence and change your life?
Yeah, I'm a freakazoid reader. I probably take in 4 books a week, probably, either by reading or by listening to it. If I had to give 2 books that were life-changing books for me, especially from a business standpoint, the first would be E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Brilliant.
That book changed everything for me from a processing and understanding how the business needs to be built. Cardone's 10X rule was a huge sort of motivator for me. And then, recently I've read a wonderful book called A Living with a SEAL, where the guy lives with a Navy SEAL for 31 days and brings him into his life and begins, he was already what he thought was a hard-pushing guy, and the SEAL taught him really how hard you can push yourself. I read that book and then signed up for the marathon after that. So
I have to get onto that one. I think I've heard you talking about that one actually on some of your content you put out. I remember you.
Yeah, that's a wonderful book. I'm reading another great book, Gene Simmons from the band Kiss. Are you familiar with Gene Simmons? He wrote a book called Me Inc. Fantastic book. I mean, really good book. Yep. I think it's about a year old. Really good book. I highly recommend that for people.
Wow, I have to get onto those. I've read the E-Myth and the 10X rule, and I absolutely love them. They're life changers, and I think the E-Myth's been around forever, but everybody you speak to, same thing. Amazing content. So, well, Matt, just before we go, is there any parting advice or anything you'd like to share with the audience you believe that they could really benefit from, or something that, a pitfall they could potentially avoid that you've gone through that could really help them out in their career?
The biggest regret I have is that I didn't think bigger earlier. Those were because of self-esteem issues created as a child, and I believed them, just like you referenced, and you were genuine enough to talk about. Those are really big problems for a lot of people. The problem is, do we make bigger mountains out of them, right? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that had it a lot worse, man. I mean, We just had a turd not talking that nice to us, but there's a lot of bad stuff. So maybe we sometimes make it a bigger deal. So I would get over those. I would get through that stuff early in your life. And then I would also say, don't rush for an idyllic situation. Don't be afraid of the pain of the struggle, because you're going to need some struggle to make it. Don't be looking for the white picket fences too early. You need to grind. You need to say no. You need to back off of vacations, and you probably need to push yourself and be more gritty than you think. And that's true. The reason I made it, Paul, is because most people wouldn't have been able to deal with the business struggles that I've had. I mean, I've had them all. And most people just would have quit, but I didn't. I just kept showing up every day. And luckily, I had a couple people that when I got here, guess what? They were here too. And it just works out. Eventually, over time, doing the right thing in the right platform for a long time can make you a lot of money.
Definitely. And as I said before, Matt, you should honestly be so proud of yourself. It's absolutely amazing what you've worked through and some of the difficulties and struggles I'm sure you've gone through. I can't even imagine. But you should be proud of everything you've achieved and what you've become for yourself. And also, Matt, I wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I've really appreciated you talking to me and giving up an hour of your time. And I just wanted to welcome you to the Career Breakthrough Tribe. So thank you so much for being on my show. I really appreciate it.
Paul, it's been my pleasure, but it started with you. You reached out and made it happen, so you took the action, and I appreciate you for doing that.
Perfect. Just to finish up, Matt, where can everybody get in contact with you? So what's the best places to contact Matt Manero?
You can go to mattmanero.com. You can just type in Matt Manero into Google, and it'll show you. We've got 1,200 videos on YouTube. We've got thousands of videos on Road Grit TV. Just type in mattmanero.com. That'll get you where you need to go.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Matt, and I hope you go home and catch up with your family and get some sleep soon.
Thanks a lot, Paul. I enjoyed it fully.
Thanks, Matt. See you later.
Guys, if you really loved today's episode, I highly recommend getting behind Matt's incredible book, The Grit. This is the sort of book that you keep by your bedside table, as it's so motivating and inspiring and helps you take your career or your business to a whole new level. Matt shares more on his wealth of knowledge and incredible insights to help you get where you really want to be and avoid the pitfalls that he's gone through in his business and in his life. Guys, jump on board. I'll put the link in the show notes below.